In this video, we're going to look at some of the basic principles of setting up your Google Classroom. I would really look at creating your digital classroom in a similar way to the way you might approach setting up your physical classroom. So what I mean by that is that you do want to have your structures, your organization systems, some basic things set up in your classroom, but it's not necessary or even really ideal to have everything built out in the beginning because you're going to be building your class as it goes. So the most important thing to focus on in this initial phase is just setting it up to be organized the way that you want it to be organized. There are lots of different ways to organize it. The most important thing, just like with organizing your classroom, is just that you have a clear, understandable organization system. So I am going to suggest a few things about how to organize your Google Classroom and set it up, but of course, you should do whatever makes the most sense to you. So we're going to start on the Google Classroom homepage by adding our classes to Google Classroom. So to add a class, you're going to go up here to create class, select create class, and then you're going to give that class a name. Give your class a name that students are going to recognize. So for example, you might include your name in this class, like Mr. Carey's 7th grade technology class. And then you can fill in the section, subject, room number if you want. You'll see when you hit create that that's going to send you to your class. We're not going to be in here yet. I'm going to go back to the home page so that we can start to add our other classes as well. So here's sort of the first major decision you have to make. I obviously created one class for Mr. Carey's 7th grade technology class. Personally, even if I'm going to have several periods of this same 7th grade technology class, I only create one Google Classroom for that. The reason is because I'd rather deal with lots of students in a single Google Classroom rather than dealing with having to post an assignment across several Google Classrooms. Now you can pretty easily do that. You can just go and select to push the assignment out to lots of Google Classrooms. I don't like going through that step. So for me, it's a personal decision that I'm just going to create a single class for a single grade and subject area. Now, if I have a situation, which I do, where I have another grade level and I'm going to be posting entirely different assignments in that, I am going to create a separate class for that. So I also teach, for example, 8th grade technology. So here I'm going to create a class and I'm going to set up Mr. Carey's 8th grade technology class and create that. And then if you run clubs or anything like that, you probably also want to set up a Google Classroom for those. So for example, last year I had a podcasting club. So I set up a Google Classroom just for my podcasting club. This year I'm going to be running the robotics program that's across all grades. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create a robotics class. Now, again, this is just a personal decision. I know a lot of high school teachers who teach a lot of students might want to set up separate Google Classrooms for their different sections. So even though it's going to be the same material, you would be setting up maybe 3 different Google Classrooms based on each section because you don't want to have to deal with so many students in a single Google Classroom. That's totally a personal choice. You can definitely do that. And I've known other teachers who've done that and have been successful with that. And if you're an elementary teacher, I would just create one Google Classroom for your entire class that's named something like Mr. Carey's 4th grade class if you're just in a self-contained classroom. And we'll look at how you could sort of subdivide the subjects once you're inside of your Google Classroom in a moment. All right, before we jump into actually looking at the classes, I want to go up here to the settings to show you some of the settings that you can change. So if you go down here to the settings icon, you'll see that all of these different email notifications are turned on. So these are customizable. You can choose whether or not you want to receive email notifications for all different things that students are posting. I would definitely leave the comments notifications on. Whether or not you want to leave some of these notifications on is really up to you. Especially if you're doing remote teaching and your students are using Google Classroom a lot, I would definitely leave these on so that you're getting pinged when students leave a comment. Of course, the downside is going to be that you're going to get bombed with a lot of emails. So you're really going to have to decide for yourself whether or not you're going to go check those comments manually or whether or not you want to get an email about them. I know I won't check them manually. I need to get an email. All right, so let's jump into one of these classes and just look at some of the basic principles of how you would set it up. So I'm going to select this 7th grade technology class. So here we're on the stream, and one thing you might want to do is change a theme of this header or upload a photo. Those will allow you to customize the header differently. And you'll also see here that the class code is given to you. So this is a class code that you can share with your students, and that's what they're going to enter in order to get into your Google Classroom. So you can copy and paste this code, you can project it, whatever works for you. And then when they are on their Google Classroom homepage, they'll go up here to the add button and they'll be joining a class by entering that class code. So people use this stream differently, and actually the default for the stream is that every single thing you post is going to show up on the stream. Now, I don't personally like that because I don't like the stream to look like this big, long running blog post. So one of the first things that I do is go up here to the settings and I change this classwork on the stream to just say hide notifications. And the reason I do that is because I just want the stream to be announcements. I don't want the stream to also include assignment since there's a separate tab for that. Similarly, I also take off the students can post and comment on the stream, and I change that to only students can comment. So this is going to change the function so that students are not able to just post things and again, kind of clutter up that stream. They can only comment on something else that a teacher has posted. I do also turn on the Guardian summaries. So Guardian summary is going to allow teachers to sign parents up so that they can actually receive email notifications about work and things like that. So this is just one of the ways that you can start to build some communication with families. So I would recommend that you turn that on. All right, once you're done with those settings, you're going to go up there to save. And then I just want to show you what it would look like here to post an announcement. So for example, you might post an initial announcement that's just greeting students and asking them to engage in some way in your initial announcement. So you'll see here that I'm introducing myself, and I'm also asking students to engage with this announcement so that they can post something that they enjoy doing outside of school into the comments. And later when we're looking at how to teach students how to use this, you can actually build this into a scavenge hunt that you're going to have students do to sort of learn about the different features. So I'm already strategically setting up the first announcement to have a call to action for students to post a response in the comments. Once you're ready, you can either go here to schedule or post. So for example, if you know that you don't want this announcement to be posted until August, you could schedule it for August and it's not going to post until August at 11 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and post it right now just so we can see what that will actually look like. So you'll see below here that students can add a comment. You do have the ability to delete student comments once they come up, or actually mute a student if you have given that student maybe multiple warnings and they're not able to comment correctly or respectfully. I would just make sure to go out of your way to let students know that they can comment, but that you're also going to be observing the comments and that the comments need to be respectful and need to be about what you're doing in class. So because I've set up the settings the way that I have, the only thing that's going to show up now on this stream are my class announcements here. There is one big exception to why you might not want to change that setting that I'm going to show you after we look at creating an assignment. Okay, once you're ready to create an assignment, you're going to go up here to the classwork tab. And you'll see on this classwork tab that there's a create button. And before you start actually creating assignments, what you should do is start by creating different topics. So essentially these topics are now going to be like subfolders within your bigger filing cabinet system. And The way you set up your topics, again, is really ultimately up to you. You could go change these after you've started the year, but it is going to be a little bit difficult to do that. So I would go in with a strategy in mind. Now, I used to do things like creating topics for homework so that I'd have a place where there's some homework there. And then I would create another topic that would say something like projects. And then another topic that would say something like tutorials or resources. And although I used this kind of system for years, the problem that I found was that students just weren't scrolling around to different places to find things. So it's a little bit actually annoying if for a student, I think if you have to go to a tutorial topic and then to a project topic and a homework topic, all for something that's occurring within a single week. So I don't use that system anymore. Again, it's a personal decision what you do. I'm going to get rid of these topics and I'll show you what I do now. So after many years of using Google Classroom, I've come to the decision that the best way to set it up is actually based on the week that students are in school. So for example, here I would create a topic that's going to say week 1, and then I'm going to put the actual date. So I'm going to just make up a date here because I don't have it in my head. We'll say August 17th through the 23rd. And then as the school year goes on, I'm just going to create new topics for each week. And you'll notice that the new topic is going to just post up on top. So the reason why I've come to the conclusion that this is a better way to organize is because I think it's just really simple and straightforward. Students know, oh, I'm missing work from week 1. I'm going to go to the week 1 topic, or I'm missing work from week 2, or we're just in week 2 right now. I'm going to go to the week 2 topic. And then they don't have to click around in all these different places for resources and tutorials and things like that. And I'm also going to be teaching you about my labeling system for how I label all the assignments that go into Google Classroom, that go into my Google Drive, so that I'm actually able to reuse them from year to year, and so that they're pretty clear for students as well. So I do like the system, but again, it's really just a personal decision. One exception to this way of setting up your topics might be if you are an elementary school teacher. So if you're teaching in a self-contained elementary class, you may want to subdivide this based on subjects. So rather than week 1, you may want to just create a topic for your subject area so that it's easy for students and for families to find information about those different subjects. I think there could still be an argument to be made for why you would want to continue with the week by week organization system. In the end, it's really just up to you. And it's something that you just want to give some consideration to before you start off the school year. Okay, so let's look now at creating an assignment. So you'll see that there are some different types of assignments that you can create. The most common ones that I use are this assignment creation. Sometimes I use the question creation. I don't do quiz assignments very often, and I pretty much never do material assignments. And the reason why I don't really use the quiz assignment all that much is because all that's going to do is just generate a Google form here. And typically I'm making those externally and then bringing them into Google Classroom. But of course, you could go in and create a quiz. This is something we'll look at later. So it's up to you if you want to do that. I just don't personally really use that feature. And the reason I don't use material is because I'm trying to minimize the number of places where students have to click. So I'd prefer to just post materials directly in an assignment rather than having them click on an assignment and then click on another place to access that material. I do use the reuse post as well because I have older Google Classrooms. So this will allow you to go and access assignments that you've already created in the past for a previous Google Classroom. So that's a pretty cool feature. So let's look at creating an assignment here. Similar to setting up your Google Classroom, there's no one right way to do this, but consistency is important and clarity is important as well. So I mentioned that I do have a labeling system for my assignments, and we are going to talk about that in a later module when we're getting into organization. But I do also want to include that label in the title description for the assignment. So I'm just going to explain it a little bit right now. It's pretty straightforward. It's basically that I take the week and the day in the week and I create a label out of that. So for example, this is week 1. So I'm going to start with week 1. This is the first day of that week or the first assignment for week 1. So I just label it 1.1. Then in the instructions, I want to make sure those are very clear. So I might say first, watch this tutorial. Then I might say second, open the Google Slides presentation. And then I just want to continue to make these directions as explicit as possible. So I might say, for example, follow instructions on slide number 2 to complete all about me project. And this assumes, of course, that I have a Google Slide presentation that has some additional instructions on it. You may also just want to actually include those instructions in the assignment. At the bottom here, I'm also going to remind students that they can post a question here if they have one as well. Okay, so obviously I'm referring to a tutorial and a Google Slides presentation in these instructions. So if you recorded, say, a tutorial in Loom or Screencastify, you could just put the direct link right next to the step number 1. You could also add it here as a link coming out of your Google Drive or a link here. And then for the Google Slides presentation that you're going to have students work from, you can go here to add, go to your Google Drive, find that document in your Google Drive, and then select it and add it. So you have a couple of options here. If you just are pushing out instructions to students and you don't need them to edit those slides, you can go ahead and just keep it here on Students Can View file. That will push all students into one document together, and they'll just basically be looking at a static document. But if you want them to be able to go in and edit their own individual assignment, then you're going to want to go here to make a copy for each student. And what that will do is push out a copy to every single student that is in your class. And after you have done that, you're going to want to go up here. And obviously, if you have a different point system, so for example, if you use like a 4-point system, you could do that there. You can also select if you have certain students that you want to assign this assignment to. So for example, if you have an assignment you just want to push out to a couple of students and not everybody, you can select which students that you want that assignment to go to. Then you can set up the due date here for the date that you're going to have that assignment due. And you go to topic and you're going to select which topic that assignment is going to show up in. And then when you're ready to assign the assignment, go ahead and go up to assign. And again, you can choose if you'd prefer to schedule it for later. You can do that. Students won't see it, or you can save a draft. So I'm going to go ahead and click assign there, and we'll see the assignment pop up underneath the topic. One common mistake that I see a lot of people make, I make myself, is not assigning this assignment to a topic. So you just want to make sure when you're in that edit mode that you're actually assigning it to the topic. Otherwise, it's just going to show up here on top and it won't be in an individual topic. Okay, and then the last important thing I want to show you just for getting set up is this People tab. Now, unfortunately right now, because I don't actually have any live students in any of my actual classrooms, I can't show you exactly what this function looks like. But next to a student's name underneath students, you will see 3 dots. And if you click on those 3 dots, there's going to be an option to invite parents and guardians. And what that's going to allow you to do is invite a parent with their parent email, and then the parents can opt in to what kind of notifications they want to get, if any, via email. If you do want to see exactly what this looks like, I do walk through this whole process in a YouTube video that I made called How to Use Google Classroom for Remote Teaching. So you might just want to check that one section out. And I apologize that I'm not able to show it here with this demo account. In the beginning of the video, I did mention that there is one exception to this rule of not having assignments post on the stream. So that exception is if you are going to be building a class website with Google Sites. And you'll see this in another video, but the main issue is that if you are trying to embed assignments directly into a class website, there's actually no place on this assignment where you're able to access a link that you can embed. So in that case, you would actually want to change the settings. You could just do condensed notifications, for example, click save. And then what that's going to allow you to do is get a link here for that assignment. So when you copy that link, that will be a link that you can paste somewhere else, like a class website that you make in Google Sites. And again, the website is totally optional. If you're not going to make one, I would recommend that you just keep assignments off the stream. If you are going to make a class website, then you'll want to post assignments on the stream so you can access those links. And we'll be looking at making a class website in this module as well. And then the last thing I want to mention is that Google Classroom now has a built-in integration with Google Meet. So if you click Generate Meet Link, that's going to allow you to create a link that you can then easily post into Google Classroom. So students can click through that link and then meet up for a video conference for distance learning. So it's just another way that you can have everything consolidated in one single place and avoid having to have students click around and go to a bunch of different locations in order to access information. All right, that's it for setting up your Google Classroom. Just remember that the most important thing is that you have a clear organization system, that you use that organization system consistently, and then that you explain to students how your organization system works. Again, it would be great if you could try to get as many teachers on board at your school to be relatively coordinated with the way that you all set up your Google Classrooms so that students have a pretty uniform experience when they're going into Google Classroom.